Welcome, everybody, to Tool Time with Tom Bogert, your number one home improvement show on the interwebs, both via podcast and video. I'm David Goss, your host. Tom, today we're going to be talking about drywall, painting, scraping, and everything else in between from your wooded basement. Are you ready to rock?
I'm ready to rock. I'm not going to be able to replicate this, though. So, yeah.
Is that elite? Do you have more appreciation for it now?
My father-in-law, despite he has a small business in like the finance world, so obviously he's an expert on all of those things. He's like a contractor level handyman, and I remember asking him, like, it's extremely impressive, and thankfully he has the most patience in the world as I'm asking him just like, how do you spackle? How do I open this? How do I do this? What can I do? And he goes, you can just go take that trash out. All right, I'll be back in 2 minutes. And I remember asking him, like, I was like trying to find a polite way to say, like, why are you so good at this?
Yeah.
I was like, did you work in construction when you were younger? He's like, no, I just did stuff around the house. It's like, God, you're so much more of a man than I am.
For anyone who doesn't know, Tom has not been on the show the last two shows because Tom closed on his first house last week. So last Thursday's show, Tom was busy making the life moves, the life changes that we love to see here at Soccerwise, that we love to celebrate. And then since then, Tom has rolled his sleeve up inch by inch, centimeter by centimeter, if you want to be a true soccer sicko, a football fan, over from the pond and Go metric system. And Tom is working on his house and rebuilding things and keeping me updated as he goes along I'm just breaking news in between coats of paint, just when I get a minute in between, I got the plumber coming, I'm talking through with him, up source, down source, whatever else, in between all of that. Maybe I'll have some time for a show.
As I was doing, what day was it that I broke? The DeJuan, Jones, and Noel Buck stuff. That came Saturday. I was doing housework all day before I think I broke both.
There's no days off.
In the afternoon, and like I think my wife was gonna put a screwdriver through my ear if I took another call during that. But managing it all. Then today, while I'm painting with my dad, just getting like he then joking to me, goes, I think the paintbrush got stiff. I don't know if the paint that you were supposed to be painting is all dried up now. Well, maybe we'll have to re-pour more. So that's how that's going.
We have a question in the chat for anyone watching live. Please join in and talk to us. And for anyone listening via podcast, welcome. Thank you. By the way, this is Soccerwise, so it is not exactly Tool Time, and I probably am about to get sued by Tim Allen and anyone else associated with home improvement. We have a lot to talk about because the transfer window closes tomorrow, which is why Tom is not fully a painter right now. He is splitting his career time between being the scoops master in the ice cream shop as well as building a house. We will talk about all of what you talked about, DeJuan Jones, Noel Buck, Cashfer's spreading, man. I talked to Chris Albright about it last week. He was like, I like that. I was like, you don't like that. You need that. And you need to spread that. I talked to all the CSOs that I could down at GA Cup and just, threw it in casually in conversation so that they were like, oh, no, I don't know that. I need to know that. So I'm going to just start using it, but I'm not going to ask anyone about it. And that is my goal in spreading it all. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Steve Cherundolo. We'll talk about CONCACAF Champions Cup coming up. Maybe we'll talk about some of the teams that are immensely struggling in Major League Soccer. Maybe we'll talk about some of the teams doing well. Whatever else you want us to talk about, if you're watching live, put it in the chat. You can put it in a super chat, which means you put a little paid money behind it to support Tom's stucco wall and paint and everything else. And if
paint is expensive, dude. My God.
Yeah. I just painted these walls. I didn't do it. I had someone do it. But I learned that there are many shades of white. And the main thing I learned about them is I think they all look like white, and I don't care. I have no juice for some of these conversations, and I try. I'm an actor. I fake it. So I could give you a tight 40 seconds on something. Secondary questions, I've got nothing for you. So I do my little bit, and someone goes, oh, interesting. Well, what if you slid the chair over to this corner? I was like, that's all I had. I've got no more for you. I do not care about the layout of this room at all. But we will get through all of that as we go along. Tom, is there anything big that you've learned that is easier than you thought it was going to be or more obvious than you thought it was going to be? Because I feel like that's part of the experience sometimes where you're like, I don't know how to do anything like you also. But then you learn one thing and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's how that works. And then you realize it's repeatable.
A little bit of knowledge is dangerous because then you feel like you're there when you're actually not. I will say, and this is what I'm going to put on my resume when I asked Andrew Wiebe, the chief dad among us, to knight me into power dad, alpha dad status because the house we bought has a trampoline in the backyard. It was part of the contract that they were going to take it out. And like the day before, I was like, if I had to guess, I bet it's going to be there. And my dad's like, dude, it's 100% going to be there. Just know that right now. So the trampoline was still in the backyard. And I went out with a screwdriver, knife, and some elbow
and
grease.
Belief.
My lunch pail, my hard hat. It was like 85 degrees Saturday. So I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna be the neighborhood alpha. I'm gonna put on the Grateful Dead, throw on some sunglasses, get some sun, take the shirt off, and just piece by piece dismantle the trampoline. And that's like the most proud I've been of myself of all time.
I will be proud of you, depending on how you answered this question. Did you jump on the trampoline before you took it apart?
That was literally the first thing my wife and I did.
Yeah. Trampolines are sick.
The dogs didn't love that.
They were confused by the
no idea.
The motion.
No idea what was going on. But they did love having a yard, so I'm very happy for them.
Yes.
And they'll get to see it once we do all this work.
Free Mello, baby. 3 to the dome. Mello finally allowed to stretch his legs and play the way he wants to. He is Olympic Mello at this point. He's finally getting to do what he does at his best. We got the jokes already in the chat about super chats necessary for Boavista. So let's dig into the show we've got coming up. I did the review show yesterday. If you've missed it, by the way. So last week we had some great episodes. We had on, now I need to remember who we had on. We had Kalen Carr on. If you've ever heard his name, he is the voice of the Generation Adidas Cup now. He is also co-manager, co-owner of the Tom and Kalen team, which I think is in first place, but only by a goal ahead of me. It is a tight pack right now in the Golden Boot race. He was on the show along with Charles Olczyk, the president of MLS Next Pro. We talked about expansion, the future of the league, where they're going. I mean, it's pretty ambitious stuff in terms of footprint.
How many green circles was that one worth?
We did not talk about that. He technically doesn't run MLS Next, so we didn't get into the product of play, quality of play rankings that are coming in at MLS Next. I talked with Axel Schuster as well. It was supposed to be like 20 minutes. It ended up being 48 minutes because I wish I worked for Axel Schuster. If you are at the Vancouver Whitecaps looking for anyone to do any role that takes no skills, call me because I am available. And so that was really fun. We talked about the stadium situation, ownership, Pedro Vite's future, Ryan Gauld's health, Jesper Sorensen, what he's brought, Sebastian Berhalter, JC Nagando, all of that you can go back and listen to. We also had Paul Tenorio on, who talked to us about Kevin De Bruyne and the MLS schedule flip. And I think it was a fun conversation. I think everyone knows.
Thought so too.
With Paul, it becomes allocation disorder like within 30 seconds. After we make fun of Tom, it pretty much just becomes allocation disorder. And it was sort of just his thoughts, I think, in general about we are all in this timeline. I think we all feel it of the World Cup starts in pretty much a year here in North America. The Club World Cup starts even sooner if you've not heard, because I assume whatever club you are a fan of has sent you 900 emails about getting tickets to the Club World Cup. And it doesn't feel like MLS or the soccer structure in general in the United States is ready and Canada. So I think Tom talked about that a bit. And then we had Chris Albright on Friday, Paul. Congratulations. And we had Chris Albright on Friday. I sat down with him in person at the GA Cup, and he talked about the experience of living through the Evander Lucho saga, building up the academy in Cincinnati, and of course Kevin and Quinn Sullivan. He brought up Quinn for national team, and he said, "I try to be unbiased." The resume's there, right? Like it's at a minimum a debatable point.
Yeah.
And obviously he is family and connected. Plus he worked at Philly and all of that. Quinn went out and had a goal and assist this weekend. That's like a pretty good way to push the no, he's not being biased. Like I'm actually balling at this point. And a lot of the things Quinn does are things I think a lot of people liked what Diego Luna brought and other players done, which is just the extra half effort of like trying to run things down, making sure you're on the back post, making more runs in the box, all that type of stuff. So I could see it happen and I would not be shocked. But that was our rundown of shows last week. Did the recap yesterday. Now let's dig in today's show. Tom, I mentioned it on the recap because it was unavoidable, even though it wasn't part of the weekend schedule, which is Steve Cherundolo announced at the end of last week that he is leaving LAFC at the end of the season to go back to Germany, where his wife is from, where he has spent, I think, the majority of his adult life, maybe over 50% of his entire life. He is nicknamed the mayor of Hanover because of what he did at Hanover 96 his entire career. So his entire professional career at one club in Germany, he is fluent in German. After retiring, he went in and worked as an academy coach there. He ended up being a youth national team coach with the German FA, which is like not a really easy thing to happen in your life, especially for someone who's not actually from the country and is from a country that many people would say doesn't know soccer as well as Germany. And then after that, he chose to come over to the U.S. He took the Las Vegas Lights job as, at the time, it was LAFC 2 for 1 year. And then when Bob Bradley left, he took over LAFC. So he makes this announcement. That means, and I have some of the quotes in here, but that means he will finish this season. He is not walking away today. He is not coaching next week because he got a red card in the Portland game, but he is the coach of LAFC through the end of this season, and then LAFC will have to figure out what to do next. Cherundolo's quote was, "It's an honor to be the head coach of LAFC. After much reflection and discussion with my family, we made the decision that at the end of this year, we'll return to Germany. I love LA and LAFC, but this is the move is in the best interest of my family, even as it will ultimately take us away from the team, city, and organization and fan base that I'm proud to represent. I'm looking forward to continuing our work with the players, coaches, and staff to make the 2025 season a success as we keep fighting to win trophies." I think Jeff Carlisle in his ESPN piece put in some quotes that Steve Cherundolo gave when he joined Las Vegas about how hard it was to leave Germany at the time from a emotional and family point of view and their connections there and all of that. So you'd assume where this timing is he is not taking a job specifically in Germany. He is leaving LAFC to go back for life reasons to Germany, and then we'll figure that part out later.
Yeah, that's what it seems to be. I don't have any information on that. I was very surprised at the announcement. I'm also surprised at how early this is. It's mid-April when that was announced. That he's still here for another 7 or 8 months, like whatever it is, right? So I guess it's good to have the clarity, and it's good to know that he'll be here. It's just I think that was the thing that took me back the most was obviously the news is shocking, but that it's announced now. And we'll see if that has any kind of impact on the rest of the season. Again, if the decision is made, it is good to get announced. I was surprised that the decision was made so far before the end of the season.
Yeah. Clearly, because it's a life thing, it's something he has set on a calendar. And I guess for LAFC, there's no disadvantage to putting out there, one, that the job will be open and available. And like start your process. Get as many names interested in that process as you can. I do wonder if there is a sentiment coming out of CCC and the way it finished. I don't want to say things have gotten stale because it's bizarre. It's his third, 3.5 seasons in, but maybe there is like, let's turn this into a rally. It's almost like a new manager bump without him actually having left. And to see like, can we galvanize the group in the end of the season? And if you tell anyone, you got to tell everyone. Right? Because if they tell the team, Tommy Scoop's going to know. And then it's out there. And in between coats of paint and primer, and we're working on a new doorway, now all of a sudden the news is out there. So once I think Steve Cherundolo and John Thornton decided to tell the team, you have to put it out there. But it was so out of the blue that there wasn't real, like MLS's website was not prepared for it. I think it was like more news coming. Like people were unsure what they were looking at because the way it came out was so bizarre of what we normally see in a situation like this. And the situation is unique that it was like, what is the second shoe to drop on this? And it was just, no, this is what it is. Like him and his family want to move. They want to go back to Germany, but they're not in a rush to do it right now. So this is the way it functions. This is the way it operates. My guess would be, and what I sort of threw out there yesterday is, he has so many ties there that once he gets there, he will end up, whether it's on a staff or in an academy or continuing, whether it's with that federation. I wouldn't be shocked if U.S. Soccer had a role for him of like liaison overseas, someone based in Europe, as a lot of the group is now based in the U.S. and scouting players and interacting with clubs and whatever it is. So, he has an incredible resume for a young person in that role, and it probably won't be a head coach day one. But also, if you are around and things, you're not wrong. You come in, especially after a winter break, when sometimes there are people who get fired, and if it's not Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, whatever it is, you're right. I shouldn't probably say that because there is the potential that, especially if he finishes this year strong. I mean, I have the stats right here, but for his time, he has 5 cup finals. He's won 2 trophies, the Shield and MLS Cup, both in his first season. He's finished top of the Western Conference 2 times. He's done it continental. He's done it domestic. His resume is as stacked as it can be for someone who's had his time, and that doesn't include this year, in which they went to a quarterfinal so far, but if they find their feet, are probably going to be a contender again going into MLS playoffs.
Yeah, I think they're in a bit of a bad way right now, particularly after that elimination to Miami in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. But I firmly believe that this is going to be a team competing in every competition that they're in. I mean, maybe not Shield at this point, but you kind of know what I mean. So yeah. Steve Cherundolo, and again, as we keep saying, he's going to be here for the rest of the season. The book is still being written. But as of right now, I'm going to say this has been an overwhelmingly positive managerial stint. All of those accolades that you said, no, it wasn't always the prettiest soccer, but it was effective. And that's what his job is, and that's what they did. And to be consistently in finals and contending for trophies, again, essentially every competition they've been in, they've been contending. Mm-hmm. And there are going to be the criticisms of not getting more trophies or maybe, a couple of those Columbus losses, whatever, right? To be in a now 30-team league and know that you're in the mix all of the time, I think is overwhelmingly positive. That being said, if you want to argue the other side, it could become pretty strong. I
don't think it can, by the way. I think you could argue in the arguments and the conversations that have been occurring over the last few weeks of should he be the manager for the future, which obviously now is no longer a conversation. There's some argument that you can try and find of where is this club going? But you cannot now look at the resume and say 3 years, 5 cup finals, 2 times top of the Western Conference in 3 years, a double in his opening year. You can't take that resume and say it was a failure.
I agree. And again, I want to preface this by saying I'm with you. I'm saying this. I've been the one kind of defending them even when they were falling short in some of these competitions. I don't want to get taken out of context. That is my opinion. That is my feeling. That is my belief.
Oh, I messed this up, by the way. It's 3 trophies, 2 cups.
Oh, Open Cup.
Yeah. No, I have Open Cup written down. I just wrote the trophies part wrong.
Okay.
So they've won 3 trophies in 3 years now coming into this year.
And again, that is elite. The other side of this, though, is you could start, again, revisionist history and picking holes in things. Well, 2022, they won the Shield on a point differential. On a tiebreaker. In most of the world, the tiebreaker is goal difference, which Philly were vastly superior than LAFC, and I thought were the better regular season team. Yeah. And they finished level on points. They win that on a tiebreaker. So that very easily could have went the other way. The second one is MLS Cup. They get the goal in the 128th minute or whatever it was from Gareth Bale, and then they win on penalties. Then you can start picking holes in that. That could have went the other way really easily. And then what you have left is a Sporting Kansas City Open Cup win. And you look at this as the worst Kansas City team in about a dozen years. And again, that's going to be an argument. I know that for a fact because people have made it to us privately, David Gus, that is the argument. I don't agree with it. I can see the logic of how you get there. But, there's nothing but overwhelmingly positive for Steve Cherundolo's time at LAFC because, you can split hairs, but that's how trophies are won, man. You go on down the line, you could say, well, if this, if that, well, then, Columbus had to come back and beat Cincy to get to the MLS Cup final that they won over LAFC. There's no guarantee.
This is the whole thing.
What if this happened? The margins are so thin. And because Danny Bouanga missed a one-on-one against a 47-year-old goalkeeper, I don't blame that on Cherundolo. In that moment, these are things that happen in such fine moments, and the game can be cruel. So, giving yourself enough chances, being in every single competition, being a contender in all of them is, I think, in and of itself, extremely impressive.
Yeah, the reason that I would never accept someone saying this the margins are thin, it could have gone this way, that way is, if it goes your way both times in 1 year, then it's not a 50-50 at that point, right? You clearly had the superior upper hand to be able to overcome both times, both in Shield. If they had lost MLS Cup to Philly, that trophy would be a different convo. They won on a technicality, then they lost head-to-head. Clearly, Philly's the better team. Not the case, right? They beat them twice, one in the season, and obviously Shield's not perfect because you don't play enough times, everyone, whatever. The other thing is just you cannot debate the floor that Steve Cherundolo built in that if finals and soccer is finicky, as if you get to enough, you'll win enough. And they got to enough because the floor of the way this team played, the way they set up in most playoff games, in most knockout games, was that they were going to be hard to beat and that at some point they'd break you down. They didn't overexpose themselves. They didn't open up. We have someone in the chat here, which is 100% true. Paolo says, Bradley played more exciting soccer, but Dolo had the better results. Bob Bradley's LAFC team is my favorite team probably in MLS history
that 2019
to watch.
Team. Ooh.
I watch Bob's teams play anytime. And I talk about Bob, I think, elevated to how many people do, because I think a lot of people forget. I think he's the greatest soccer mind in American soccer history. So I have a ton of respect for what he built and what he's done. Steve Cherundolo, it looks different. But when I talked to Axel Schuster last week on this show, right, there's the transition from Vanni Sartini to Jesper Sorensen. I asked him, like, is there a right and wrong way? And he said no. Now, everyone disagrees. I have a disagreement, right? I would want my teams to play a certain way, and I don't care how many times we'd lose. I'd be a glutton for punishment because I'd be like, yeah, but do you remember in the 61st minute when they got pressed and they played out of it, and then that one guy played a back heel in the middle of pressure, and then they played over the top of the defense but brought it down and reset? That's a championship to me. So I'm loser mentality on some of that, but like you can't argue with what Steve Cherundolo has built, its sustainability. Competing, now you talk Leagues Cup, CONCACAF Champions Cup, and MLS, so you're talking about international competition, domestic competition. It worked on all of those levels. And if the fault is they couldn't win at Columbus, like, welcome to the club. No one could. Obviously, the Red Bulls were able to do it last year, but like no one could. And that, even in that scope, they still won 3 trophies across that time period. Yeah. And so I think there's really no way to argue that it didn't work. Now let's talk next steps. So the quotes from John Thorrington are, Steve's been a tremendous leader for LAFC and has proven to be one of the top coaches in our league. What he has achieved during his tenure speaks for itself. We're extremely thankful to him for his continued dedication and hard work. We support his decision to focus on his family and with this move at the end of the season. For the remainder of 2025, our goals have not changed. We remain committed to winning trophies this season. We believe we have the people to make that happen, and there will be no better way to close this chapter than with another trophy for LAFC. Now, I think 2 things come to mind immediately. The first is, how does this affect the recruitment of a potential third designated player if you don't know who your head coach is going to be going forward? And second, who will the coach be of this club going forward?
That's a good question. I don't think that it should really impact the DP situation because, like, look, dude, if you get a killer number 10, if you get a killer winger, right, you just do that. And
like an Alexei Moranchuk, like a big time signing.
I mean, if you got to get it right, obviously. But like when they left, like when Bob Bradley was leaving the club, and like this probably doesn't fit perfectly because Cherundolo didn't play really a similar way. But LAFC's whole thing was, yeah, like we have, this is what we want, and go, this is the style we want, this is everything we want. The Cherundolos kind of went the other way. So the idea is if you know what you want as a club, the general kind of profiles that are going to fit in should make sense. So I still think that they should go ahead and get a DP this summer. Again, even if that's just extending Cengiz Under's loan, better than nothing is kind of where I'm sat at. And then on the coaching side, I honestly don't know which direction they're going to go because I could see them going to South America, Europe, or just going like, hey, Jim Curtin, like, what do you want? We're going to do it. Atlanta tried that as well, so who knows? I could see them going from within like they did with Cherundolo, with Ante Razov and Mark Dos Santos. I think those 3 names, the Curtin, Razov, and Dos Santos, are the first ones that come to mind. But, like, I don't know, man. Like, LAFC could have the pull if they wanted to get a name brand head coach that maybe other clubs in the league wouldn't have the opportunity to really sway and bring in. Like, how, man, Bob Bradley was a star hire when they got him. Like,
yeah.
And again, it doesn't need to be an American. This is kind of where I'm at. Like, there's a lot of names out there that you could throw at me. I could be like, yeah, I can see it.
I think that's a great way to say it, which is LAFC are in a stratosphere that Atlanta are in, that Miami are in, the Galaxy, where you are talking outside of the standard pool where, you know, I've got my Apple Note. Hit me up, Apple. Come on. I've said it. So, like, give me a little bit of cash for the back end, you know. Apple.
It's not how negotiating works.
Yeah, you're welcome. With, like, all the coaches. They're all the coaches that are available, right? Laurent Courtois got thrown on that list now. Like, Those are all options. And then for some teams, those are the only options. And then for a team like LAFC, you then recycle the Marcelo Gallardos and Tata Martinos of the world. And I think even larger than that. Like, this is a team with the way they've set themselves up, with the atmosphere, with the city, obviously with the success they've had, they could go anywhere. What I said yesterday on the recap show, which I think to me guides a lot of this, is the direction of the club is set by John Thornton. It is why LAFC is not in a panic right now, because the sporting direction, the sporting structure, the sporting culture is set by John Thornton, who's not leaving. I don't see that as someone who's like, let's go get Tite and bring in the former Brazilian national team manager who will be his own voice. And not that he doesn't want another voice in the room, but the largest voice. Or Tata Martino. Let's be straight up, right? Tata does his own transfers. He finds his own players. He wants his own style. He wants to do what he wants to do. I don't picture that being the way LAFC will set themselves up, where Bob Bradley was almost the perfect in-between of new MLS, new John. They had a similar brain. They had a similar background. But then Cherundolo was really take my plan and put it into place. And that's where I think a lot of these names that I put down yesterday, and I was firing from the hip. You better believe I had 6 shooters out and letting them rip.
Dudes, man.
Yeah. Are all people I think that fit into that profile of, one, have a background across what John Thornton has done, Jim Curtin being his former teammate in Chicago, the others being assistants right now in Ante and Mark Dos Santos. I threw Jesse Marsh in there. So Marsh's contract's up at the end of the World Cup. If you think Jesse Marsh wants to coach your team, which, by the way, if you're not playing with the ball, you've got Mark Delgado under contract, you've got Dennis Bouanga, Aaron Long, Jeremy Abobisi. The long-term contracts on this team are all guys who would play for Jesse at a high level. If you think you can get that done, you don't even care about the first half of next season and what you have to do.
So do you just do an interim coach for half the season before Jesse takes over?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And you have 2 options in that. You have one, which is Jesse's worked with enough people that his future assistant could be someone who has been a head coach. Obviously not Chris Armas, but like guys like that.
Like Bradley.
Yeah. Or it's, yeah,
honestly,
for sure.
I'm not kidding. Like the plan, as far as I understood it, was when, like, again, maybe not the plan is too strong, but when Bradley was retiring, from what I was hearing was, hey, if Jesse is still managing wherever he is, like come January, I'll join his staff. And then obviously he got fired from Leeds. I think the timelines aligned. And then Bob Bradley took over at Stopback, so Michael joined that. But like that's something that would be in play.
Yeah. Cherundolo, I looked it up. I think he was 41 when they hired him to be coach of Las Vegas, 42 when he took over, which is young for a manager. Michael's like 38 or 39, so it would be a little bit younger, but it's also interim. Or Ante, right? Ante Razov played with Jesse Marsh. He works at LAFC right now. Mark Dos Santos, similar, has cross paths. If they want to be there, they could. So I think all of those are possibilities. I brought up Will Fernandez of like, do you throw a shot across the bow? Is that your home run? If you can't beat him, join him type thing. He's already moved in Major League Soccer. I would be shocked just because like he's got his build and everything, but you got to take your chances where you can. One of the absurd ones that I hadn't thought of until just now is Peter Vermees. Like you have said it, Peter Vermees as a coach, as a sporting director, let down Peter Vermees as a coach. Some people probably have stock in Peter Vermees' coach out there, and it might be someone like John Thornton who's been around for a while and has worked around him or with him over the course of time. So there are huge question marks now for LAFC. I think this is going to be fascinating too, because how early can you pick someone who then wants to wait? Like if you start the process now and you find someone, are they just chilling for 6 months while Steve Cherundolo finishes out the season? As this goes along, if you have the option of someone and then another job opens up, are they going to walk away? And so then you have to lock them down. And when you lock them down, how do you make all of that work? So there's a ton of question marks around this. It makes the end of the season really fascinating for this team. I do wonder if there is that new manager bounce for them. It wasn't exactly that way this weekend. They tied Portland 3-3 in a crazy game out in Portland. Bouanga got called offside twice on 2 finishes. After review, Giroud scores a free kick from the top of the box that, like, the cameraman zoomed in on Bouanga. No one thinks Giroud's shooting. He left foots it off the bottom of the crossbar, bounces in, and goes in. His first goal in his MLS career So he has scored in other competitions. He has not scored a goal in about a year in Major League Soccer league play. He gets that goal. Portland is pissed. They thought the Buanga PK was a bad call. Cherundolo got sent off 15 minutes before that for yelling at the ref. And I think Phil Neville was pretty pointed, Tom, in his criticism.
Yeah, so what I can say is it's been brewing in Portland. I've spoken to a few people there in recent weeks. They've not been thrilled with refereeing and some decisions that has gone against them. So I think it really boiled over here. And after the game, Phil Neville said, quote, on the state of refereeing, quote, "They want to be kings of the castle. It's all about them. They just want to show they're the main people in this league. And unfortunately, it's just not good." So I want to be clear, too. If you take that tweet out of context and you say, oh, it's a penalty, like get over it or whatever, right? Phil was talking about Steve Cherundolo getting sent off. And he even kind of said, like, I'm mad that the other team's coach got sent off because I think he started with that was a phenomenal game. Both sets of players were incredible. They should be absolutely proud. Not the officials. The players should be proud. Once again, not the officials. So he was, again, you could tell that this was something that was brewing. And it wasn't a banner weekend in terms of refereeing. Like, a couple people in the chat have talked about the Diego Luna red card. It's shocking to me in the age of VAR that stood. Maybe there wasn't, trying to give benefit of the doubt. It wasn't a good replay. There was plenty of replays, man.
I don't think there's clear and obvious to overturn because nothing happened, I guess. I guess that's the clear and obvious to overturn.
And again, not to just make it seem like we're taking shots at MLS refs. In the Champions League last week, what was there, like a 6.5 minute VAR break? Like, that should never happen. That is not the point of VAR. And again, like the age-old, if it's not, like the clear and obvious, if it takes you 75 replays to do it, it's not clear and obvious, right? Like, so these are some of the things that are annoying. And look, like...
Did you see Alex Katranis came to the press conference after the game when he wasn't one of the assigned players?
No.
Because he wanted to talk about how bad the refereeing was and how Diego Luna had gotten done dirty because of it. And if a player's choosing to do press, that's like, shows the level of frustration. That goes along with Phil Neville. I think there was frustration, in the Houston game? I'm just trying to think back through the games. I mean, San Jose, SKC, there's a ton of frustration as well with refereeing and some of the decisions. Cincinnati, Chicago, I don't know what you're supposed to do about it. Pineda trips on the ref, which leads to the Evander opening goal. So then Chicago's livid. Chris Brady's sprinting out of the goal halfway up the field to yell about it. There was a lot of controversial calls. There was a lot of question marks. And what we've gotten, I know in the Discord, which is, a ton of active fans. If you're not a part of it, subscribe to the Patreon, get you access to the Discord. It's the best place to hang out and talk soccer. There was a feeling that it was just lack of control and flow in games, which led to chaotic endings of games because you had situations where players didn't know what a foul was. And I don't disagree with that because I think in general, Phil Neville's just doing what Phil Neville's going to, he's doing what he's going to do. The referee doesn't want to be the center. None of that's really true. For the most part, that is, referees are under pressure. They are uncomfortable in the situation and they don't know how to tamp down. And a lot of the referees in pro are not super experienced because the league's expanding. We're adding leagues. So think about pro covering North American soccer, but mainly US. When you add a USL Super League and you expand USL League One and Championship and MLS and NWSL at the same time, you're expanding the amount of games every weekend. So you're expanding the refs that you're pushing into the player pool. You've then added VAR where you need center referees to be on as well at some point. And you have referees that I think are unprepared for some of these moments and they don't know how to handle it. And so they get caught off guard or they get, they're trying to tamp things down very quickly. And you can see it with experienced referees and you can hear it, right? We had, of course, Joe Dickerson and Filip Dujic, who had his big moment again, once again this weekend on, and they talked about the communication with players and you hear it from players. Players are like, oh no, this ref talks to me or this ref knows how to bring me a little closer. So now my level of volume comes down a little. So now it's less intense and then you don't have to start showing yellow cards. The Andres Reyes moment was absurd. You have to do it because it affects his suspension.
Yes.
A straight red card.
Everything was correct. What he did, everything was correct.
But to have to call, and for anyone who hasn't seen it, Andres Reyes brings down Patrick Agyemang, I think, as the last man, gets called for a free kick outside the box. Then they go to VAR. It turns out it's a penalty, which then turns it into a yellow card. But he had just picked up a yellow card. So Reyes had to come back out of the locker room so that he could have his red card rescinded, be shown a second yellow, and then be sent back off the field. And then Ajuang put the PK away. Shout out to the Aja God. Got to get back on the scoring charts. And San Diego ended up losing 3-0 in the end of this game. But like, Andres Reyes is suspended for this weekend now. But a straight red, he's suspended longer than that. And it's a different fine. And it affects, like, so that mattered, but it's an absurd thing to watch go down. No,
that was funny. And like, just because of all of the disco reports where it's, you know, fined for failing to leave the field in a timely manner, like Andres Reyes like wasn't going to get a fine for that because he exited the field. It was like, no, wait, come back so we can send you off again. It's, again, like, I'm laughing at just the situation because, again, they did everything correct. And I kind of want to end this discussion by reiterating my general stance. I don't love talking about referees. I don't because, like,
unless they're cheating Jalen Brunson.
Yes,
when Dennis Schroeder is draped all over him, and Tobias Harris is a cheater born and raised on Long Island, which disgusts me. But otherwise, we don't like to talk about refs.
Yeah, well, because, like, again, dude, like, every team, like club personnel, fans, whatever, they you see it through your colored glasses. You think that we're the only teams that ever get screwed by a 50-50 call. And if you talk to MLS fans, they say our referees are the worst. You talk to Premier League fans, they say our referees are the worst. Then baseball fans say, no, our refs are the worst. And then the NBA, it's like, oh, but they're rigged there. Like, it gets exhausting when the Chiefs stuff in the NFL. I don't have a ton of time for it. It's a really difficult job. So I don't like to pile on when everybody already is and everybody always sees it their way. So, but there was a couple questions in the chat, and like there should still be criticism, right? Like they're not above criticism, but my generality is, like, look, man, everybody complains about refs, and it is what it is.
Yeah, I agree with you fully. Except the Pistons are cheating, and the NBA is letting them do it.
Do you think Malik Beasley is going to shimmy as he goes to Cancun in about 8 days?
Probably. Up the Loons in the chat says, why can't you figure out a way to give Andres Reyes the red card without having him come out? Like, just note it. It's a good question. It's probably something that someone should discuss and figure out. Although I will say,
this doesn't happen very often. I think that we can use our brain power elsewhere.
Also, one of our big complaints is it is hard to figure out what's going on at games, like for broadcasters, but also for fans.
True.
So that actually becomes harder, and I guarantee you we would complain about it the other way maybe if it happened and be like, we don't know what's going on in the building. But yes, you are right. There are ways to figure a lot of this out and adjust a ton of it. For Portland, I think 6 unbeaten now. They would have liked it to be a win, but 6 unbeaten for them in a row. I don't think all the problems are fixed, but Jonathan Rodriguez, second game back from injury. Felipe Mora looking a little bit healthier, a little bit more fit. DaCosta's good. It's different than Evander. Evander is like an unstoppable force with these flare moments. But the way DaCosta moves and waits balls, he finds gaps that just don't exist, especially when he comes out in the channels. And now he's able to just like float balls outside of the foot on the ground, right to the run of the center forward. He's a consistent move. He covers a ton of ground. So he's connecting the game and all of that. I understand there's some belief in some of the young pieces along the back line. I have not seen enough of it to catapult Portland and say, this is different than what we've seen the last few years, but it's trending in the right direction for them right now. With LAFC, Giroud gets the goal. I thought Giroud also just played the role I thought he would play a lot more this weekend, which is like kind of as a creator. Like I thought he would drop in more, create for Bouanga, Martinez, Under, whoever it is running alongside him. But then when he is in the box, he's a legitimate factor to finish.
Yeah.
Felt like we saw a little bit of that more. We had some questions about, so he has an option at the end of this year, as does Lloris. Whatever coach comes in next, well, they would have to decide what he looks like. I haven't like totally given up on Giroud being a factor for this team just because it's there. Like a lot of the reason they signed him is still there. And I would be surprised if LAFC gave up on the whole thing as well. We now have a transfer window that's closing in how much time, Tom? When does it close?
Tomorrow.
Okay. On Wednesday. So Tuesday, we're recording right now. If you're listening via podcast later and you're listening on Wednesday, you know when it closed. It is right now. We already have had some big moves right before the end of this window. As we mentioned, Tom's been breaking them all weekend. and a lot of them are connected to San Jose.
And New England.
And New England. I made a joke yesterday. I said currently San Jose is working on acquiring Avery John, Andy Dorman, and Matt Reese because every former New England Revolution has to play for this team. They picked up 2 former Revs, one directly from the Revs and one via Columbus. Noel Buck, the Cashfer, and DeJuan Jones, a trade for allocation money. I don't think we have the exact details yet, right?
No, not yet. And obviously all this is going to get announced again, like, not to hedge, like I was saying on the Gozdog stuff. Like, I have an idea where it is, but I'm assuming that Buck is going to be announced, or DeJuan's going to be announced maybe today. So we'll have the numbers soon enough. And I know that the Noel Buck is a Cashfer. I think DeJuan Jones is allocation money, but I don't know that with 100% certainty. But either way, San Jose are bringing in 2 former Revs, and I really, really like both of these deals for the Quakes, which would be a lot more fun to talk about if they didn't give up 5 goals to Sporting Kansas City at home this weekend, and I'd be more excited about all of this, but those 2 things can still be separate. I really like both of these deals for the San Jose Earthquakes.
For the Quakes, they're just the latest victim of the juggernaut that is Sporting Kansas City's attack right now. I like both these deals too. I talked about it a little yesterday. Let's start with Noel Buck.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, he made his debut as a 17-year-old in MLS in 2022. In 2023, under Bruce Arena, who is coach now of San Jose, he started across the season 22 MLS games. In 27 appearances, he had 3 goals and an assist under Bruce. Since Bruce left New England, originally he was suspended, then eventually comes back around and is San Jose coach. Noel Buck in the, 2 years, has played almost 600 minutes in MLS.
Not enough. It's just simply not enough.
He has started 7 games combined across the 2 seasons, and then he went out to Southampton on loan. They had him with the U21s. He started a few games at the beginning. Then it was once a month for 2-3 months. And then New England terminated the loan and he came back to New England. So he just hasn't really played soccer in 2+ years now after being an 18-year-old starting center mid in MLS. And for me, at least, the hope is now he goes back to the manager who had trusted him at the beginning and made him look like a future England international was what we were talking about.
New England were asking for $7 million for Noel Buck in conversations after those breakout seasons. They probably could have sold him for around half of that. Again, this is all hypothetical, right? But hindsight's 2020. Then Caleb Porter just doesn't like him, doesn't use him. And hey, fair enough, right? Like, managers can have their own opinions on players. He went on loan to Southampton U21s because it was very clear he was not getting any more playing time in New England. So might as well take one of these English offers and English opportunities. It didn't work out at Southampton, but for me, this is an incredibly talented young player. I think he's going to fit really well in San Jose in their kind of 3-5-2, where he'll have somebody like Ian Harkes or Bo LaRue next to him when he's playing. So you have kind of the destroyer next to him, and he gets to be more technical and ball progress and do a lot of things with a defensive midfield next to him, a defensive midfielder next to him, and 3 center backs behind him, and runners all around. Like, I think Noel Buck is going to be really good for this San Jose Earthquakes team.
And he does enough physically, I think, that adds an element to this group because I think this San Jose central midfield has played a little light. They have been soft to play through. They have not tracked runners. They don't win as many 50-50 battles as I would like. And I think it's been to the detriment of San Jose, in which it's not a part of the field they dominate, and then it's not a part of the field they create out of. So I think Noel Buck brings all of those things to this team, which is where there's a clear space for him to play, which is really, really exciting. And I think it makes the opportunity for him, okay, if you do the things you do well, this is how it fits into this team. This is what you can be for this group. My assumption, Tom, and we don't know the details. Shout out to the chat, by the way, who cleaned up the details on DeJuan Jones for us. It's this is a team sport. No one's in here. No person's an island in all of this. My assumption is, though, the Revs keep some level of sell on, right? And this becomes...
They have to. They have to.
Right, and this becomes what Jack McGlynn became, which is, can we send him somewhere where he looks better? And whatever we get in sell on from that ends up probably being of more value than what we're going to sell outright if we continue to tank his value in our own team.
And that's... I'll give the club credit for that, too. Like, I'm telling you right now, like, The ballpark from kind of the fees and figures I've heard, and this has kind of gone on for like a month. Like these talks have been going on for a while. They came close to a deal. I thought it was going to happen a couple weeks ago, then it didn't. Something in like the $600,000 ballpark, right? Give or take 100 or 2,000, right? Like it's not a ton of money. I think that it's a great deal. It's a great roll of the dice for San Jose. Worst case scenario, like that's okay. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. So I give New England credit for saying like, look, if he's not going to play, he's training with the second team the last week. Like I don't understand it, but at least that they weren't like, no, like we could have gotten more. We should get more. Maybe we can, rehab his value, whatever, right? They said, you know what? This is better for the player. And hey, we're still getting some money now. And again, probably going to have a sell on attached to it. They really should. So I'll give credit to New England, for allowing this move to happen and not like demanding every single possible penny they could get.
And your hope then is if he gets sold by the number you think by San Jose and you get 25% of that, all combined, it starts to get to that number. And then as his career goes along, there's more sell on, knock on, as you do, more moves and whatever. So Noel Buck headed that direction. The Revs, they won again this weekend, back-to-back wins. They scored a goal from the run of play, which is a cool thing to do in soccer and probably a good idea for this team. They got Campagna back. They started him up top alongside Ganago. So a little bit of a different look for this team. It seemed to have worked. I think Peyton Miller for sure will be successful in a setup like this. Eli Feingold got the start on the other side. Yeah. Maybe that's a spot where one exciting. Of the wingers starts to play, though, and you can bring him in as a wide center back, and then you could really open up the attack. Whatever it is, the Revs are still trying to get healthy, and they're still trying to figure out what this group is and what it looks like. Let's move to the next trade, which is DeJuan Jones, which, as I said, chat helped clean up. Shout out to Dan Nye in here who said $425,000 in GAM and an international roster spot for DeJuan Jones. So the original trade was $600,000 in GAM from Columbus to New England and Will Sands alongside of it. So basically breaking even. The international roster spot's worth $200,000 to $250,000 at this point in the season. And so you basically break even with Will Sands being there, which I think for Columbus, as I said, was worth it. Of like, DeJuan Jones is available. He's useful in MLS. You went out and got him because he was available last year and no one else was doing it. And now you find that he is not a major part of your group and you are able to move him along to the next deal. And like, for San Jose, this is such an obvious win for the way they play.
I agree. And a couple notes on like how this came together. I will start with DeJuan Jones is very excited to be back with San Jose in this project.
Back with San Jose.
Sorry, back with Bruce with this project in San Jose. I think it fits him very well. So he was pushing, might not be the right word, but like it's not like he desperately wanted to leave Columbus. It was like, all right, this makes a lot of sense, I think, for all parties. Columbus crew, they have Max Arfson. Max Arfson is turns out to be a better fit for Columbus and this style, and I think DeJuan's going to be a better fit in San Jose's system. Columbus, it's not like they were trying to get rid of him. They, again, like one of the lines that I was speaking to somebody there was like, hey, we wanted to do right by him. And again, like this is something that we keep coming back to. Like I think that's important rather than saying, hey, no, like we're going to have you as a rotational guy. DeJuan Jones still has, if you have any dream of making the World Cup roster, you have to be playing every single week. And he's going to get that in San Jose. He's not definitely going to get that in Columbus because of Max Arfson and everything else with that team. So I think that was good on Columbus. Nice deal by the Revs. By the Quakes, by the Quakes. And hey, on the other side for Columbus, right? It's not just, this isn't just charity. This opens a lot of space. This opens a lot of salary cap space for them. They already had plenty. They have a DP spot open, right? Like they have a ton of flexibility going into the summer. And yeah, they lost to Miami, but like things are still really good for this team.
There was no reason to have DeJuan Jones on the roster in that, as you said, he wasn't a starter. Max Arfson was the starter in that spot. At the start of this year, all of a sudden it made sense of like, oh, Max Arfson's going to play a little higher because I say this a lot, but like with Nancy, it's not positional depth. It's just having enough players because he's so flexible with the way he uses them. So like, if you think DeJuan Jones is good, which he is, then it was worth bringing him in to say, if we need to, we can move Max Arfson up the field into the attack, whatever. They probably, with the way Nancy plays, can get some level of performance and production out of Lassi Lapalainen at 1/18 of the cost.
Dude, brother, if you there's nobody more juice about this Lassie Lap line and move than you. The same way that RIP extra time that Doyle spoke about Derek Jones to the Columbus Crew like it was Cucho Hernandez. So I'm not doing this again. I'm not going to sit here on our show and let this happen. You can mention Lassie Lap line. So help me God if you go back in for a second conversation. Say what you're going to say right now. And we're keeping it short.
He can give you enough of a straight line runner that it doesn't really matter. And like, you don't need the value of having a borderline international.
Yeah.
And DeJuan Jones, as you said, forget just making the World Cup team. He should be playing every week. He is too good to be a rotation piece. And when you look at what Vitor Costa does and what DeJuan Jones does in all the ways of San Jose right now are playing with a back five, DeJuan Jones is going to be a wing back. His ability to get high up the field, beat players 1v1 or connect passes and cross and come inside and be a finisher. It is a clear home run for San Jose to put him in that spot and to put him in the role. And whether it's like, now you're talking about, is it opposite Christian Espinoza and pick your poison? Are you finding ways to get Espinoza higher into the attack? And now maybe you start to shift things back the other way, which is Espinoza's coming off a front line or out of midfield.
Yeah.
And right wing back is a safer option. Is it Rodriguez playing out there? Whatever it is. Like, there's clear ways that you're going to use DeJuan Jones. He's going to make you so much better. And he's in his prime. Like, if San Jose is going to build something that's going to last for any amount of time, you need players like this. So it's a home run move for them. It makes sense for Columbus. They've already flipped that international roster spot now, $250K. So in the end, they recoup and make a very little bit on all of this. And they keep talent churning through their team. It's the same with AZ Jackson if they end up moving him on. Like, to have players that have flexibility because other people want them is an easier way to function as a club. And it is a reason that Columbus continues to be competitive. I think bringing Gazdag in was what I was going to say in that last Alban thing. Shifted we don't have to use Arvstein as high up the field as often. So now Gazdag comes in, that pushes the numbers down a little bit, and now you move him back into that team. I went back in for a little nibble, but not the full thing.
No, that was well done. It was like the Key and Peele sketch where it was like, if you do 3 air pumps in the end zone, it's like the referee like leaning there, ready to grab the flag. Oh, it's 2.5. You're good.
The last move for San Jose was an interesting one, but one I'm a pretty big fan of. Oscar Verhoeven is being sent on loan to San Diego with an option to buy.
Yep.
He's a U.S. Youth International, U17 International homegrown signing for San Jose, part of this class that they were hoping would break through with Cruz Medina, led by Nico Tsikiris. Like, a lot of talent in that group. It has not really come to fruition yet. And so Verhoeven goes to San Diego. Tom, take me behind the scenes a little bit here of like how you heard this come about and what you make of it.
San Diego's been pushing for like the better part of 6 weeks. I'm surprised that this deal took so long to get done, because at the end of the day, it was San Jose's third string right back. And again, like an academy graduate talking about doing right by players. If he's not going to play for you, loan him to San Diego and then let, like, if they see the pathway. So San Diego are, again, their academy is going to be robust when it's up and running and has some years behind it to really make it count. They don't have that yet because they just started. So Anis Saidi, the center forward that they got from Philly, love that trade. And Oscar Verhoeven is another one of that mold of, like, this is a talented young player from somebody else's academy that, while we don't have our own 18-year-olds or at least like a full class of 18-year-olds coming through, he's not playing for you. We like him. We think he fits our style. Let's bring him in. And loan with an option, I think, makes sense for everybody. And not an expensive deal. It's not one where San Jose needed to replace him on the depth chart to make it happen. Like, this shouldn't have taken so long to get done, but I am glad that in the end it got done. And hopefully Oscar Verhoeven will get his feet under him and get some. Like, right now, he's probably third string in San Diego as well. So he'll have to work up the depth chart there too. But clearly, they're not going out of their way to acquire a player like this if they don't think that there's a pathway to him to playing real games.
Yeah. And I said on the show yesterday, I think he fits San Diego's style better. So there's a roadmap for him to, when he gets on the field, that he can be a factor. Like, Jasper Lawfulson is not a high-level right back for most MLS teams, but he can do it because, for the most part, he plays in possession with San Diego. So that's like a way for Verhoeven to get on the field. I love what you said about sort of building that academy out. I don't know why more expansion teams don't do this, but for anyone to think about, the back end of your roster, like any talent you can get out of the back end spots of your roster, makes it easier to roster build because they're off your salary cap books. Homegrown's included in that. It's hard to do as an expansion team because you don't have an academy built out. But also, a lot of guys who are good in those parts of the roster are like, okay, I'm on a veteran minimum, so I could play anywhere on a veteran minimum. I like here. Like, I've already lived here. I like the setup. I have a spot in the team. Whatever it is, it's impossible to have as an expansion team because you've never existed before. Yeah. If you've not run, St. Louis ran a 2 team. We've seen teams come out of USL. Yeah. That's changed things where those teams have those spots filled. So this is a way to do this, and it bridges this gap until your academy is sending out their own talent. And they've done it in smart ways of Saidi clearly wasn't going to break through because Philadelphia has only spent money at center forward. It's the only position they've spent money at.
And then Eddie Davis coming through too.
And he's one of 5 attacking pieces in CJ Only and Kevin Sullivan and Ed Davis. And I can't even remember his name right now. The San Diego native attacker, Mexican Youth International, who they're pushing through as well. So, he wasn't going to break through. So they found that. Verhoeven, clearly the same. Bruce was not super focused on getting him minutes. There was not a lot of minutes to play in that part of the field. And so it makes a lot of sense for San Diego. You mentioned the 5-3 game, Sporting Kansas City knocking off San Jose. They got 3 in the opening 28 minutes, I think it was. Then Joseph scores 1. Chicho got a late one, but it ended up 5-2. John Polskamp got an assist. And then Daniel Shallery scored the goal and thought they were going to meet at midfield to celebrate. And Polskamp was like, I'm happy for you, but that's too much for me.
5 goals on 5 shots on target is tough.
It is tough. But I would say for KC, it feels like it's ticked up a half amount in energy. They've pressed a little higher. Manu Garcia making the run for the 3rd goal is like that extra effort, reading the space. And it feels like they made San Jose uncomfortable defensively by attacking people 1v1, which they had not done for most of the season. So the hope is that's sort of the light at the end of the tunnel. All right, Tom, I need you to get out financial details. We need to get currency exchange numbers produced. We need to talk international law and sporting law. Let's break down what's going on for RSL right now in their quest to find their DP number 9.
Real Salt Lake are at the final stage of signing DP center forward Robert Bozenik from Boavista. Bozenik is in Utah right now, Tuesday, doing a medical. He traveled. As I was kind of saying on the show in recent weeks, this deal has, for the most part, been agreed for a number of weeks. But the disarray that Boavista are constantly in means it's never, ever simple. It's been a situation of, I'm trying to be where I can be specific and where I have to be vague so I don't get caught saying something that I don't know this finance world. I don't understand why they're still allowed to make transfers when they don't pay anybody. And all of the details of this is going on. So Bozenik pushed for this. He was like, I'm traveling. I'm doing the medical. We're doing this. Like, this is a deal, all this, right? The deal is for $2 million. What I was told, $2 million US. Bozenik gets here, and now Boavista are saying, well, actually, we actually thought that it was 2 million euros, right? Because that's like 2.3 million US right now. Despite the fact that everything was being negotiated in US dollars, and just somebody maybe did a quick Google search of, the translate, like
how to make more money in 10 seconds.
And we need to talk about what this means for RSL, right? Like we
need RSL to create a cryptocurrency that they're able to do this in for Boavista immediately.
My favorite detail is 5 years ago, Boavista bought Reggie Cannon from FC Dallas. They have not paid a single penny. They were taken to court 2 or 3 years ago by Dallas. And
by Reggie, right?
Reggie took them to court and lost on a technicality, which I feel bad for the player. Like, they didn't pay him any wages, but he filed the lawsuit a couple days, something stupid where they gave him $10 and be like, look, we're on our way to paying your wages. Whatever it was. Even that is besides the point, which is as funny as it sounds. Dallas requested, hey, can RSL just directly pay us the fee that they're going to pay Boavista? And Boavista were obviously like, no, because apparently they have zero intention of paying anybody. After
Boavista feels very strongly that you should pay for what you receive. RSL has to pay Boavista. It's the only proper thing to do.
As I'm reporting this, they signed Bozenik from Feyenoord. I get a text from Feyenoord asking about this deal because, hey, they haven't paid us a penny for Bozenik that they signed from us on loan 3 years ago, and 2 years ago was the purchase option. They don't pay anybody. And now they're haggling over, well, actually, it's in euros and not in dollars. And the dude's doing a medical. He's probably wearing a Real Salt Lake shirt right now. What I was told from RSL is they hope to just complete everything today. And hopefully that they'll get off this stupid euros versus dollars thing. I don't know, man. It's a mess. I don't understand how they're allowed to be run. Somebody sent me, I thought somebody was making a joke that they didn't pay their electric bill. There's a report in Portugal that they didn't pay their electric bill at the training facility. And they're not training at the training facility because they can't turn the lights on. And then somebody else made it, texted me, made a joke, was like, yeah, only cold showers, cold water for the showers. I have no idea if that's a joke or if that's serious.
I don't know it's true anymore.
It's just like, dude, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. If you go to Boavista's all-time transfer fee record fees, air quote, paid, because probably most of them aren't, they're all MLS players. Chidozie Awaziem is their record transfer signing from Portugal. Peter Musa was second.
Nice.
Reggie Cannon's third. Bozenik's fourth. And then sixth is Nathan, the defender Brazilian defender. And seventh is Albert Elise. MLS is propping up this team.
Yeah. Which also might be if any MLS executives are listening and you think this sounds frustrating, maybe don't do business with Boavista. It might be a scam. I'm just saying.
At least if you're buying from them, you could, I don't know. They're a historic club in Portugal. I feel bad, but it's just been disarray for half a decade at least.
Yeah. And unfortunately for RSL, it's a timeline now. Because if you don't get this done and you don't get this over the line by the end of Wednesday, you can't have this player on your team through, as you've said many times, the summer transfer window opens the last 8 games of the regular season.
I think that they're going to get this through one way or another. He's there. Everybody wants us that. Maybe,
he's just going to sit down and refuse to leave. Boavista people are going to come to get him, and he's going to be like, I'm not going.
RSL should just say okay to the euros versus dollars and then never pay it, because apparently you're just allowed to do that sometimes in global football if you're Boavista.
We should find...
who cares what you write on a paper if you have no intention of ever
We should find what other countries call them dollars and see what the best one could be. And RSL be like, oh, really? No, I thought this was Fijian dollars. I didn't realize that you said U.S. dollars. That's my bad. That's on me. I do also, by the way, I still owe you $5 for that last Miller Lite, but it was actually $5 Canadian. So I'm going to pay you back the $4.47 I owe you, or whatever it is. For RSL, also, they lost to TFC this weekend. It was TFC's first win. Obviously, the Diego Luna red card was a huge part of that. It was the 25th minute or something. Theo Corbinu scored the goal early. Messy turnover from RSL. Decent finish in the corner, then hit the Cristiano Ronaldo celebration. It's all right, man, come on, let's... You guys haven't won a game yet. You haven't really started that often. Whatever. So for RSL, there's clear reason to be hoping that this gets done. Their ownership sale went through. We talked about it a ton over the last 2 weeks. We didn't touch on it since it's become official, but the Miller family's taken over. The Blitzer group is still involved. My understanding is the Blitzer group is still a large part of the soccer decision-making, at least as time goes along, and maybe then there's a bit more of a transition and turnover, but the Blitzer group is leaning on the fact that they are a global soccer conglomerate. That's their expertise. The Miller family are local and they're sports owners. That's their expertise, and trying to work the two together. And so this would be a nice start for RSL to get this deal done. It is just a massive hole in this team at that center forward position. Otherwise, I like a lot of this group. It's, though, low ceiling if you don't have someone who can finish off the chances you create and lead the attack and help out. Last move we're going to do here is Omir Fernandez traded to the Portland Timbers for $200,000 in GAM plus $50,000 potential extra. I'm in the bag for Omir Fernandez.
I like it.
I want him to play on my team. He works really hard. He tries a lot. I did a rant about how he should start for Colorado a few weeks ago because Cabral was borderline the worst starting attacking player in the league, and they were winning or tying games with players coming off the bench and stopped starting them, and he couldn't. So now he plays for Portland. He's not going to start for Portland either, but he brings something different to that group.
Exactly, and so you have Ari Lassiter coming off the bench, and then you have Omir as a rotational guy as well. So like Ari Lassiter, like his best strength is like his physical presence. So like when when Phil Neville's looking at the bench, all right, well probably if he's going to get suspended for the referee comments. If somebody's looking at the bench next week and you're thinking, okay, do we need somebody killing transition? Do we need somebody's pressing? Okay, we need a left wing, an attacking mid, or a right wing. Omir can do all three of those. I just really, really like this move for Portland because, like you, I really like this player.
Yeah. And if you follow the Alex Mule career arc, Omir Fernandez probably on a similar track and could be a difference maker for this Portland group. There are some other half rumors out there to touch on. We're not going to get to all of them here. We'll see what happens.
I'll look in the paint cans today and see if any of those come out.
Okay. It seems like a lot of them are about other teams that are also in bankruptcy and have no money and don't know what to do. So if you just follow the paper trail, eventually you'll get through all the MLS transfers. Let's finish up this show by talking about the biggest game of the week. We've got a CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinal coming up on Thursday night. So we're going to preview it all here because we wouldn't have a chance to before that game. And then we'll figure out our coverage around it. Of course, Miami are traveling to Vancouver for this opening leg. I talked about it on the show yesterday. Columbus hosted Miami this weekend. It was a 1-0 win for Miami in Cleveland. It did a lot of things with C's because of Cleveland, Columbus, and the Crew. I will say for the 500th time, it makes no sense to me.
Stupid.
It was stupid. I think you talked about it maybe on one of your hits on Golazo. You've done wrong by your fans who are hardcores and diehards who are there every day, which is a lot, by the way. Not saying it's a bad thing to win, but like Columbus plays a lot of games when it comes to CONCACAF, Leagues Cup, and into MLS playoffs, and that building has been packed every single time. You do wrong by them, and then I just don't understand how you recruit new fans. I don't know how you recruit new fans to an experience that has nothing to do with what you are, but Juris Judy got to go to a football game, so there's that as well.
Our good friend Michele Giannone interviewed him. I really enjoyed that interview. That was fun.
Michele's the best.
Bro, I love him, man. Being able to do that in English, and like I texted him, segue. I texted him about it, and he goes like, yeah, like he's always like, oh, like my English wasn't great. I was like, bro, you speak better English than me. Like, don't worry at all. That was awesome. But yeah, it's just disappointing, man. Just like even Wilfred Nancy before the game being like, yeah, this is like an away home game. Yeah,
and it's not even like Kansas City playing at Arrowhead is in the same city, so you can still sleep at home and take a bus to the game. Yeah. It's like a different city and a completely different setup. It shows, I think, a decent level of what I talked about I felt like a lot of the show was with Paul last week, of like the lack of understanding of how to build sustainable growth of the sport in this country around these huge events that are occurring. One being Messi, two being these two FIFA tournaments that are coming up in the next 12 to 14 months. And I think there is going to be a lot of miss in like taking advantage of all of this to grow the sport and grow the structure and the environment and all of that. In the game, I've found a few different versions of this. Roughly, Columbus had a 2 XG higher than Miami. Whatever stat you go to, it is this huge gap. I called Ben Kramaski a rumdeuter on the show yesterday. He's just like this weird, finds goals, finds spots. He's not the cleanest in possession. He's not a true passer. He's not a dominant defensive force. But like he's on the field, he's going to get chances. He's going to score goals. You have no idea why. Otherwise, by the way, that's how it feels sometimes. Otherwise, by the way, Inter Miami pretty much played a first team. I mean, they set the record for undefeated streak in MLS action across now 2 seasons with this result. And of course, they knocked Columbus off, who were the last undefeated team in MLS. So because this was such a big game, they had no ability to rotate. You could say they rotated like one piece in. You could say they rotated Segovia and Falcone out if you think they're starters, which are debatable. Allende is a starter as well, and Lujan is, or Noah Allen, whoever it is. So like for this Miami group, it is not going to be easy to now go from Cleveland to Vancouver to play this game, but it was another example of this other club in their bag that they've shown, which is abilities to close out games and win games without being ball dominant and without a ton of possession, which I think is going to be huge for this Vancouver game. On the Vancouver side of things, they tied 0-0 against St. Louis. I thought this was one of the odd pro calls, although it probably was correct in the goal that was called off for St. Louis. You don't think so?
No, the defender made a play at the ball.
Someone sent me the language that
shut
made
up,
it
nerd.
look like it was correct. And I'm trying to
shut up,
remember how they worded it how it's worded in the rule. It's a deliberate play at the ball, but it's not a deliberate play of the ball, I think. So it's like he makes the attempt deliberately. It doesn't hit off him, but he is not attempting to play the ball where it goes or something. Yeah, it was chaos to me. Everyone else seemed pretty good about it. I thought St. Louis looked good. They have scored 1 goal in 5 games. Looking good is probably not enough for their fans.
Probably not.
And what they're looking for. But I thought they looked more aggressive and more dangerous. And again, with
Raise
Vancouver,
the banner.
I would say 9 of 11 starters, 10 of 11 starters in this game. Like they played their full team going into this semifinal.
Dude, they rotated against the minnows that are Monterrey. Like they were ready for this game against St. Louis. Are you kidding me?
Here we go. Defender has to have control of the ball for it to count as a quote deliberate play per the IFAB law. That's what it was. So he never had control, even though he made a deliberate play on the ball. Nerds. Tom in his basement, so angry about the world and what it's doing to his beloved
literally
game.
in my parents' basement.
Yeah. On May 25th, 2024, Miami beat Vancouver in Vancouver 2-1. Jordi Alba and Leo Campagna scored the openers. Ryan Gauld scored a PK. That is the only time these two teams have ever played each other, because if you think about it, Miami came in during COVID. They are probably the two furthest points in the league to travel from. Vancouver was stationed in RSL and then back up in the Pacific Northwest and all of that. Yeah, these are bad times that we don't want to think about. So this is not a crossover that has any history. Leo Campagna no longer on the team. Ryan Gauld not currently healthy. What Axel Schuster said on our show last week is he won't be available for this game. They will test things for leg 2. He was clear in saying it is not worth the risk, no matter how competitive we are going into leg 2, for the long season for Ryan Gauld. So I would be surprised if he plays, but that also might be dictated by the result in this first leg and what ends up happening. I said, alluded to in that Miami-Columbus game, I think Vancouver needs to dominate the ball and dominate the game. And I would be surprised if Miami doesn't really fall into what they did in Columbus, which is playing against the ball. For Vancouver, I think defensively, your best bet in this match is to have possession and have the game so that you don't have to worry about defending Miami and letting Miami settle in. It is on turf. So we have seen Messi start on turf. We have seen him play on turf. We are not 100% sure he'll start. We do know he will travel. That's already been announced. But I think for Vancouver, there's no way out of this, Tom, without just being who you've been. You cannot adjust overly to this Miami group, and I wouldn't think they would with what we've seen from Jesper Sorensen.
Yeah, and I think that's been the beauty of this Whitecaps team. They play how they play, whether they're at Monterrey, whether it's Ryan Gauld in or out of the team, whether it's Brian White or not. Sebastian Berhalter is there every second of every game, so that's the constant. That dictates the style, because you have him and everything else is around him. But like that's what I really love about this team so far. Obviously it's working, because if it wasn't, then it'd be really easy to be like, why don't you change anything? They play on their style, and they're going to try to make Miami uncomfortable. They're going to try to have some of the ball if they can, but I think it'll be more about territory than it will be ball control, right? Like field control instead of ball control.
Yeah.
And if they can do that, like Brian White is going to be a handful for the center backs.
Especially a Noah Allen or an Ian Frey. All of them are been really good, but that's a tough battle.
Yeah. And they're going to like against Miami, Javier Mascherano's done really well at limiting it this year compared to last year, but there's always going to be a couple opportunities in transition. You think about that like Miami-Chicago game. You think about everything that Columbus did. Again, it's not the same thing, but you can create chances against this team. And if you have Brian White up top, I'm banking on one of those to go in. So I think it's going to be a fascinating first leg. How like Miami are the same way. Like they're going to play how they play. It doesn't matter if it's home or away. It doesn't matter if it's leg 1 or leg 2. Like, dude, we're into Miami. We're going to work. We have Messi would do this. So how this one plays out, like I could see it going in a couple different directions. Like I think that this is extremely important for Vancouver to obviously have a positive result going back to Miami.
Yeah.
So they have the capability to do it with the personnel, the players, the belief, to say everything, man. Like, so I'm excited.
On that Vancouver front, I would say this shutout is more important than the goal in leg 1. because
Yeah.
they can score in Miami. I have zero question about that. Against this Miami team, in that environment, travel, whatever. So to me, if you're Vancouver, the top goal coming out of this game is to not concede so that you don't have the away goal against you. And then LAFC went in 1-0, and it wasn't enough to get them over the line. But I think for Vancouver, it's not going to completely dictate what they are. I'm just saying my view of how this went will be affected more by what they do defensively from a results point of view than what they do offensively. But in saying that, I still think I want to see Eddie Ocampo take advantage of the space that Jordi Alba leaves. I want to see Pedro Vite float into that right half channel as well and take advantage of the space. Like, I don't want to see Vancouver play on their heels. And I think not playing on your heels is the way you get that result against an Inter Miami team. But I would take, for them, I would take 1-0 over 3-1, like, coming out of this game.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Ooh, you hate that.
I was trying to weigh it up, and I was like, 2-goal advantage.
It's going to be fun. They are two teams with clear identities. They are two teams who want to play. Nothing about Vancouver they've shown is scared. And obviously for Inter Miami, like right now they're on a run of 12, 18 months where they've been the best team in the region. Like, that's what they've established. They set the points record last year. They've competed across multiple competitions. They don't really have anything to show for it outside of that shield. And it feels obvious. And I said it, Noel Allen got quoted about it. And like, this matters to them. But because of the shutout streak or the undefeated streak and all of that, they have not rotated the group that heavily. And so now they go into a new environment. They haven't played in Vancouver. They haven't traveled to Vancouver. They haven't played on this turf. I would assume BC Play is going to be bouncing for this one. You've got all the positive momentum. You've got the stadium news. You've got Messi coming to town. Like, this is going to be a show. And Vancouver feels poised for it. Miami feels poised for it. There is so much attacking talent in this Miami group. I think if it was me, this would be an Allende game because he can stretch the field if you're out of possession, and he can be a runner off of Suarez and off of Messi. But if you play Segovia, it maybe gets you more possession, and that's one of the things that you're managing and all of that. I think Falcone will come back into the team. Maybe it's for Noah Allen and it's alongside Lujan, or maybe it's for Lujan. Either way, I think that makes you a little bit stronger against those Brian White battles, those 50-50s and all of that. And then you're just hoping that the show is there. Like, the ball from Suarez to Weingart to then the cross to Ben-Ha Kramaski this is why this team set the points record last year, and that's why they're capable of going to the CONCACAF final, and they're capable of winning the whole thing. So it is going to be an incredible game. We'll have your coverage here on SoccerWise. I'm going to be back live tomorrow to do some NWSL chat with Jordan Angeli. We will have some shows. Tom, you are going to be grooving, right? Later this week.
I'll be in Vegas at the Sphere for Grateful Dead. Let's go.
And fingers crossed we will see Tom next week on this show, surviving all of that back in his new home. Either way, thank you to everyone in the chat for joining us for this one. Thank you to all of you for listening. Excited for these games. If you don't already, subscribe to the Patreon and get you access to the Discord. I'm going to be in there enjoying these CONCACAF Champion semifinals. We're going to be in there talking NWSL on Tuesday night with Gotham, as well as MLS all week long.